Hello and welcome back, students. Once again, I am Joseph Pratchett, and today we'll be going into the reading test of the IELTS. Now, the reading test is made up of 3 sections, and it takes an hour, so 60 minutes. So you have about 20 minutes for each section. Section 1 here has questions 1 to 14, but we'll first start with questions 1 to 5 on this section that we'll be going over just now. Now, before you read through the section, you should always check the questions first, so obviously you know what you're looking for. So we'll go down to the questions. That'll be questions 1 to 5. And here, questions 1 to 5. Do the following statements agree with the information given in the text on pages 18 and 19? In boxes 1 to 5 on your answer sheet, write true if the statement agrees with the information, false if the statement contradicts the information, and not given if there is no information on this. So you want to look for, obviously, like anything that is to do with these questions. They're all in order, so don't worry. You'll be looking for the first question first. It will come up. The information on it will come up first, or won't come up, as it were, before you find the answers for the other questions. It's all in sequence. So first off, we'll be looking for children must go to school where they are registered. And we'll be looking to see if that's true, if they say that's true in the information above, or if they say they don't say that, they say that's wrong, they say they don't have to go to school, in which case that you would say this is false, or if it's not mentioned at all, in which case you would say not given. So we'll be doing that for all of these, such as 2, all arrivals after the register has closed are recorded as unauthorized absences. 3, if your child is absent from school, you must send the school a letter to explain why. 4, staff who think a child is having difficulties at school will contact the parents. And 5, schools will contact other authorities about children who take frequent unauthorized absences. So we'll now go up to the text above and we'll be looking for all these pieces of information, see if they are true, false, or if they're not given at all. Okay, so let's go through the reading piece above. Here we go. Okay. Is your child at school today? School attendance information for parents/carers. Introduction. Receiving a good full-time education will give your child the best possible start in life. Attending school regularly and punctually is essential if children are to make the most of the opportunities available to them. The law says that parents must ensure that their child regularly attends the school where he/she is registered. So there you see, question 1, they tell you right there. That is true. The child must go to school where they are registered. See, children must go to the school where they are registered. So we will write, the answer for that one would be true. So now we are looking for all arrivals after the register has closed are recorded as unauthorized absences. Okay? Now let's go see if we can find that. What you can do to help. Make sure your child arrives at school on time. This encourages habits of good timekeeping and lessens any possible classroom disruption. If your child arrives after the register has closed without a good reason, this will be recorded as an unauthorized absence for that session. Now see, what we're looking for is the question was, all arrivals after the register has closed are classed as an unauthorized absence. But it is said here, if you have a good reason, then it's not unauthorized. It's saying if you arrive without a good reason, then it's unauthorized, which means that question 2, sorry, let's go all the way down, is false. Because the statement contradicts the information we're given above. Because this says all arrivals What it said in the text was that only arrivals without a good reason were classed as unauthorized absences. If you have a good reason, it's not unauthorized. Hence, question 2 is false. Yeah, keep it all in capitals, much easier to read. So that's what you've got to do when you're trying to look for information, whether it's true or false. If it agrees completely with the information, such as children must go to the school where they are registered, it is true. But here, this statement contradicts with the text above because this says all arrivals, where the text says there are exceptions. If you have a good reason, then it's not unauthorized. Hence, it's not all arrivals. Make sure you have, you understand the full the full sentence you're trying to find. You're trying to what's the term? Basically, confirm. If you're trying to confirm or confirm it as true or confirm it as false, or looking for if the information is not there at all. If you don't find anything to do with one of these sentences, then it's just not given. There is no information given on that statement. So then that will be not given. But true and false is generally quite easy to figure out. It's like if there's a contradiction, it's like all arrivals versus some arrivals are okay as long as you have a good reason, then it's clear that that is false. So that's how you do that. When it comes to the reading, it's helpful since they use more than just your basic English, more than just your average everyday small talk English. It's good to brush up on your vocabulary and your sentence structures, because as we go further into the reading test, the sections are going to get more complex. They're going to use more complex language, so it's going to be more difficult. But for now, it's fairly simple, just requires brushing up on your vocabulary, just learning more words in English, how to read them as opposed to how to say them or hear them in this case. So now we have completed questions 1 and 2. Let's look for question 3. If your child is absent from school, you must send the school a letter to explain why. Okay, so that's what we've got to look for now. Okay, so we are here. Okay, if your child has to miss school, it is vital that you let the school know why, preferably on the first morning of absence. Your child's school will have an attendance policy explaining how this should be done. Okay, now this is talking about the question asked, told you you had to send a letter. This has not actually mentioned either way how you're supposed to inform the school. It hasn't said that you have to, and it hasn't said that you don't have to, which means actually in this case the information isn't given. It just says that you have to let the school know why, but it doesn't mention anything about a letter. And since a letter isn't even mentioned, that means it's not true or false. It's actually just not given. So our answer for that would be not given. Since there is no information on this, there was no mention of any letters being sent to anyone, the school notwithstanding. So that is the answer to that question, because they mentioned nothing about how you should inform the school. In fact, actually, they said that you have to refer to another piece of information to get the information on how to inform the school. So now we are on question 4. Staff who think a child is having difficulties at school will contact the parents. So that's what we're looking for, something about the staff. So let's go back up. Here we are. Okay, so we are here now. If you know or think that your child is having difficulties attending school, you should contact the school. It is better to do this sooner rather than later, as most problems can be dealt with very quickly. See, now, that was mentioning about the parent dealing with the child. If the child is having difficulties at school, it's not the staff, it's the parent should be contacting the school about difficulties attending school. So it didn't mention anything about the staff there. Like you can see, it's only talking about if you know or think that your child. So this is only, they're talking about the parents, which means the staff is not mentioned, which means again, the answer to this question, sorry, let's go down, is not given because it doesn't mention anything about staff. So not given. So when you're looking for ones that are not given, like, you know, it's like it basically something that's not mentioned. So like as in like with number 4, the staff wasn't mentioned. It was talking about parents, and their child that's having difficulty. And with 3, it said it's mentioning a letter when a letter wasn't mentioned anywhere in the text, like about being absent from school and like, you know, sending a school a letter. So since the letter was not mentioned, that's not given. If any part of this sentence isn't mentioned, like the most important part, like such as what must be sent, such as a letter, or in this case, who should be contacting, like who, like, you know, staff who think a child is having difficulties at school will contact the parents. No, in this case, like what it says in the text, the parents who think their child is having difficulties would have to contact the school. So like that's completely like right. It's not just it's not false. It's actually just not given because it's not like it's like, you know, it's completely like they're like not even mentioned about like staff who think a child. It's only parents were mentioned. So now 5. Schools will contact other authorities about children who take frequent unauthorized absences. So now let's go back up. Let's have a look-see. Sorry, I took it too far down. Here we go. Authorized and unauthorized absence. If your child is absent and the school either does not receive an explanation from you or considers the explanation unsatisfactory, it will record your child's absence as unauthorized, that is, as truancy. And then it goes on to mention reasons for absences. Most absences for acceptable reasons will be authorized by your child's school. Sickness, unavoidable medical or dental appointments, if possible, arrange these for after school or during school holidays, an interview with a prospective employer or college, exceptional family circumstances such as bereavement, excuse me, days of religious observance. Now those are the acceptable excuses for absences, and these are the unacceptable ones. Your child's school will not authorize absence for the following reasons: shopping during school hours, day trips, holidays which have not been agreed, birthdays, and looking after brothers or sisters or ill relatives. Now here, nowhere here was it mentioned, let's go to the question, was it mentioned that the school will contact other authorities about children who take frequent unauthorized absences. All it said is that you'll be marked as absent, you'll be marked as a truant student. So in this case, this one, the answer for here would be, can you guess? Not given, because they don't give you the information. So yeah, like you know, like as you can see with like the answers we have here, it will show you, it makes it clear how you should answer these questions. Like such as in the text, it was mentioned children must go to the school where they're registered. So that's true because that's exactly what they said in the text. And with 2, all arrivals after the register has closed are recorded as unauthorized absences. In that case, they said some arrivals are okay if they have the proper excuse. They're like, you know, it's like such as like, you know, it'll be an authorized absence. So like since that says all and in the text it says some are okay depending on the reason, that means this is obviously false because it contradicts that statement. It's a contradictory statement. So it's like, you know, the information that was given in the text is is like it's about the same, the right topic, but it's not accurate. So that means it's false. Whereas with 3, 4, and 5, these it wasn't mentioned, like such as there was no letter mentioned, staff contacting parents wasn't mentioned, and schools contacting other authorities about children who take frequent absences, that wasn't mentioned either. So all of these are not given. If you can't find anything in the text about like any question, it's most likely not given. If you find something that looks like it, but it looks a little off, that means it's probably false, such as with 2, where they say all arrivals in the statement, and the text says some arrivals, some late arrivals are okay if you have reason. And obviously, if the statement is exactly as they say in the text, that is simply true. The true is going to be the easiest to find. False, a little harder. Not given, harder still. So that's how we'll go through these. So, and now that is the first part of section 1. That is questions 1 to 5, and we are finished with that. So now we can move on to the next part of section 1. Read the text below and answer questions 6 to 14. Holiday apartments to let. A. Oh, of course, before we start reading through this, let's have a look over the questions. Questions 6 to 14. The text on page 21 has 7 sections A to G. For which apartment are the following statements true? Write the correct letter A to G in boxes 6 to 14 on your answer sheet. And B. You may use any letter more than once. That's a note. That means a notation, basically. It's telling you, like, if, one apartment fits the criteria for multiple questions, then you can answer with that, letter again. So, it's not every question has its own separate answer. No, there can be overlapping answers because one, that 2 different answers could have the same, 2 different questions, could have the same answer. So, that's just what it's telling you. So, when it says NB, that's just giving you a little notation. So, telling you that this is something you should look out for. So anything that says NB, look out for. Okay, so question 6. It overlooks a golf course. Question 7. It has its own parking space. Question 8. It is in the center of a town. Question 9. The sea can be seen from it. Question 10. There is a swimming pool for residents of the apartment complex. Question 11. It is in a new apartment complex. Question 12. It is part of an apartment complex with its own supermarket. Question 13. It has a private outdoor area where you can sit. Question 14. The owners will organize parking on request. Okay, so we'll be looking through the text above, and we'll be looking for descriptions of the different properties and see which matches to which question. A to G over these questions 6 to 14. Okay, so we should probably look for 6 first. It overlooks a golf course. Let's have a read through the whole thing, and then it's basically sort of matching. So you'll read through and see which one matches what. So what we have here, House A. Sleeps 2 to 3. 1-bedroom apartment with uninterrupted sea views. This is a small first-floor apartment in a well-established apartment complex containing a range of leisure facilities and a supermarket for residents. On the edge of the town, but close to cafes and restaurants. On-street parking is generally available. Now, I see here it's mentioned first-floor apartment in a well-established apartment complex containing a range of leisure facilities. I keep saying activities, and a supermarket for residents. Now, I think that mentions here part of an apartment complex with its own supermarket. I believe 12 would be A then. So, yes. well-established accommodating range. Yes, so 12, the question 12 answer would be A. So what you do with one of these matching ones is like you wouldn't work through the questions in order because it's basically mixed up. Because here we looked over the first house, but it matched question 12 because that was the one asking for part of an apartment complex with a supermarket in it. So best thing to do is basically have the two papers side by side, you know, like the questions and the text. Read through the text and try and match, after you've read through the questions, you look through the text and you basically match as you go. So we found the first one, that was question 12, which was A, the apartment complex with a supermarket. So now B, sleeps 2 to 4, spacious 1-bedroom apartment in a complex that's only just opened, 5 minutes walk from the sea. Private parking in front of building. It is located in a quiet, unspoilt village with a local market, banks, cafes, and restaurants. There are some fabulous championship golf courses within easy walking distance. Okay, so now, here we go. It overlooks a golf course. It says it overlooks. This one says the golf courses are walking distance, but it doesn't mention anything about overlooks. So that might not be the correct answer. So you've got to be careful. This because it says it overlooks a golf course, not that it's near a golf course. So it could be a different house. We'll have to read through them all and see. Now, what else has been mentioned? Center of the town. Let's see. In a complex that's only just open, 5 minutes walk from the sea. I think that was mentioned. The sea can be seen from it. No, that's talking about a walk from the sea, not that it can be seen. See, does this mention uninterrupted sea views? Oh, uninterrupted sea views. The sea can be seen from it. 9 would also be A. Okay, so uninterrupted sea views. 9 is also A. A. Okay. Okay. As you can see, from the 9 and 12 both had the same answer. It was apartment A. Because there were two separate details, but which the criteria of A still fulfilled. So that was the answer for those two questions. It was the same answer. So that is what the NB was warning you there. You may use any letter more than once. And that's because the apartment had two different details on two different questions. Now, let's go back up. We were on B, and oh yes, it mentioned 7, it has its own parking space, and B, private parking in front of building. This means that 7 is B, because it has its own parking. So what else we'll be looking out for? A golf course, we've done 7, so we're looking for, it is in the center of a town. There is a swimming pool for residents of the apartment complex. It is in a new apartment complex, and we've done 12, so it has a private outdoor area where you can sit, and the owners will organize parking on request. So now, new apartment complex. I believe, yes, spacious 1-bedroom apartment in a complex that has only just opened. And what does that match to? 11. A new apartment complex, only just opened. So that means that obviously 11, the answer is B as well. So yeah, like as you're reading through, like each set of one, just look over the questions and scroll through, each one. It's like, does that match? No. Does that match? Yes. Okay. Knock it off. Put in the letter. You've answered the question. So now we will go to, we have answered 7, 9, 11, and 12. So now we go on to C. Sleeps 2 plus child. 1-bedroom cottage, child's bed can also be provided, large terrace with uninterrupted views of the river and mountains. A truly peaceful location in a picturesque village, but less than 10 minutes drive from the coast and all the amenities of a town. Owners live nearby and are happy to help in any way they can. So now let's look over the questions and see which one would match. So it didn't mention anything about a golf course. 7 has been answered. In the center of a town, no, it didn't mention anything about that. 9 has been answered. There's nothing about a swimming pool, so that's not it. We've already answered 11. We've answered 12. 13, it has a private outdoor area where you can sit. And 14, the owners will organize parking on request. Now, we've looked through all of those. We've answered 4 of them. So 4 of them are irrelevant. Like the ones you've answered, cross them off so you know that you don't have to keep looking for them. And we'll go through 1-bedroom cottage. Child's bed can also be provided. Large terrace with uninterrupted views. Large terrace, private outdoor area. There you go. So you want to, obviously that's terrace and outdoor area, synonym. That means they're the same, they mean the same thing, just different words. So that's when, having an expanded vocabulary, you can mix and match. You'll realize what that means compared to what the question is asking. So terrace, private outdoor area, aha. That means that question 13 is C. So question 13, C. So now we go on to D, because yes, organized parking, didn't mention it. Help any way they can. No, that's got nothing to do with parking, no. D, sleeps 2 to 5. 2-bedroom apartment in a complex with its own pool and beautiful views of the national park. Hang on, own pool. 10, yeah, that's simple. That's a very easy one. There is a swimming pool for residents of the apartment complex. So yeah, that one just easy, just jumped out at you. It has a swimming pool. That's 10. So it helps if you can remember exactly what all the questions are asking for. But if you can't, it's no trouble just to refer back to the questions as you're going through each part. So that was obviously has its own pool. But let's look through just to make sure that that's everything. And beautiful views of the national park, a peaceful location just 3 kilometers from the town center, where there are plenty of shops and excellent sports facilities. Superb local golf courses within easy reach. Okay, so yeah, I think I didn't mention about overlooking it. Answered 7. It's not in the center, it's 3 kilometers from the center. Answered 9, answered 10, answered 11, answered 12, answered 13, and didn't mention anything about parking. So yeah, that was it. Okay, E. Sleeps 2 to 4. Modern 1-bedroom first floor apartment in-house. Owners resident on ground floor. This great location offers easy access to all that this fantastic town has to offer. A few minutes drive from its supermarket, bank, cafes, restaurants. The ferry to the island beach leaves from 100 meters away. 10 minutes walk from the new shopping center, which has many shops, food hall, cinema, and multi-story car park. So now, what they've mentioned here, I don't think that matches anything of the ones we're missing. The ones we're missing are obviously 6, 8, and 14. So let's look over 6, 4, 8, and 14. Didn't mention anything about golf course. It's not in the center of a town, and there's nothing about parking. Yeah, no. E doesn't match anything, actually. So that's interesting. Yes, so you should be careful. There's gonna be information in there that's not actually even relevant to the questions. So if you don't actually use some of the information, that's fine. That's sometimes the way they actually have structured it. So don't think it's a trick or anything. It's just, well, it is kind of a trick because they left that information in there, and as it's there, you think it's important, but it's not necessarily relevant to the questions you're being asked. So just just read through, see what's how it matches. Clearly, this is useless to us. E doesn't match any of the questions we're looking for. F. Sleeps 2. 1-bedroom first floor apartment. beautifully furnished, offering a high standard of comfort. Situated in a peaceful location on the edge of an inland village, with attractive views of the golf course. Many restaurants, bars, shops, etc. are within easy walking distance. Garage available by arrangement with the owners. Now, that attractive views of the golf course, that overlooks a golf course. You can see the golf course. It's not within walking distance. You can see it. Overlooks. That means you're when you overlooks, that means you can see into it. So that word overlooks, that means you're looking into it, which means you can see the golf course. We have attractive views of the golf course. Sorry. That means that 6, the answer is F. Now they also mentioned about the garage. That means the garage available by arrangement with the owners. That is, owners will organize parking on request. Yeah, they arrange a garage. A garage is where you park your vehicle. That's parking available on request by arrangement with the owners. So that means that 14, one of the ones we're missing, is also F. Now, the only one we're looking for is obviously 8, and that is, it is in the center of a town. This is not in the center of a town, it is on the edge of an inland village. So now we're on G. Sleeps 2 to 4. 2-bedroom apartment in central location. Ah, there we go. That means that 8 is G. And we're done. So it's that simple. When it's something like this, it's basically just matching information to question to text, which one goes where. This can be kind of fun. It's kind of like a puzzle. It's quite enjoyable, I think. I hope you enjoy it too. If you enjoy it, it's much easier for you to do in the exam. But well, let's finish the rest of this here first. In central location, in busy street with shops, restaurants, etc., not far from the beach. The town has ideal facilities for holidays all year round, including swimming pool, tennis courts, and golf course. Now, this is just these facilities, swimming pool, tennis courts, golf course, they're in the town. They're not in the apartment. Don't mix that up. If you missed the swimming pool and golf course one just before you got to G, don't mix those up. They're saying the town has it, not the apartment. Because what they're asking is about the apartment's features. What do the apartment buildings, what do they have in them? Or what is related to them only? So let's go through our answers just to double check. Always a good thing to do. If you have time left over, always double check your answers. It's like you never know when you might have accidentally made a mistake. You might miss out on some easy marks. Okay? So now 6. Overlooks a golf course. Was that F? That was, here we were, situated in a peaceful location on the edge of an inland village with attractive views of the golf course. So yes, 6 was F. So now 7 was B. It has its own parking space. B. Spacious 1-bedroom apartment in a complex that has only just opened, 5 minutes walk from the sea. Private parking in front of building. Yes, that means that 7 is indeed B. And 8 is G. So 8, it is in the center of a town. We just went over that, yes. Central location, 2-bedroom apartment in central location. That means in the center. So yes, 8 is G. And now 9 is A. 9 is the sea can be seen from it. So A, 1-bedroom apartment with uninterrupted sea views. That means you can see the sea. A great little saying there. See the sea. So that means that yes, the sea can be seen. That means that 9 is A. So now 10. There is a swimming pool for residents of the apartment complex. And we got D. So let's look over D. 2-bedroom apartment in a complex with its own pool. Simple as. That means 10 is D. 11. It is in a new apartment complex. We had, obviously, B. So let's go back to B. That was in a complex that's only just opened, which means it's new. So that means that 11 is B. Now 12, it is part of an apartment complex with its own supermarket. And we got A. So let's see. This is a small first-floor apartment in a well-established apartment complex containing a range of leisure facilities, and a supermarket for residents. That means that the apartment building has a supermarket, which means 12 is A. So now 13, it has a private outdoor area where you can sit. That would be, we chose, what was it? C, yes. One-bedroom cottage, child's bed can be also provided. Large terrace with uninterrupted views of the river and mountains. And a terrace is an outdoor area where you often can sit. When the hotels and restaurants have a terrace, they obviously put out chairs for people to enjoy the outdoor views, the nice outdoor air. So a terrace is an outdoor area of a property, which means that yes, it has a private outdoor area where you can sit. A terrace of a property is a private outdoor area. So that means yes. 13 is C. So now the last one, 14. The owners will organize parking on request. And yes, that we chose, that was F, correct? Yes, that was F, so let's look there. One-bedroom first-floor apartment, beautifully furnished, offering a high standard of comfort, situated in a peaceful location on the edge of an inland village with attractive views of the golf course. Many restaurants, bars, shops, etc. are within easy walking distance. Garage available by arrangement with the owners. Garage, that's private parking for that building. That means that 14 is F. And that is section 1 of the reading test. Now, as you can see, the first section of the reading test, relatively simple compared to what will come after, because as you go through the sections, they'll get more and more complex. The first section, relatively straightforward. The second part of this section was basically a matching question to text. It's like choosing the right letter. And the first part was a true/false, which is actually, in my opinion, a little more difficult because it requires a little more thought. But either way, that's done and dusted. Relatively simple. So now we can move on to section 2. Let's go down, and here we are. Section 2, questions 15 to 27. So we will read the text below and answer questions 15 to 21. So before we read this, we will check out the questions. And this is the questions 15 to 21. And we will be completing a flowchart, as you can see below. And for these answers, you should choose no more than 3 words from the text for each answer. So, the answer can be anything between 1, 2, or 3 words long. No more than that. So if you find you've chosen an answer that's 4 words, then it's obviously wrong. It can only be 3 words max. So, and then you will write your answers in the boxes 15 to 21 on your answer sheet. So let's just go through these first before we go through the text. So GZJ travel, recruitment process. Stage 1, application form. Go online and apply for jobs advertised. Give proof of achievements so far both in education and in blank. Question 15. Note, additional requirements for applicants interested in the role of blank. Question 16. Stage 2, telephone discussion. More information given about company and the blank, 17, you could receive. Information about annual event where prizes are given to those who have made blank, 18. Stage 3, group interview. Chance to tell us about how good you are at selling and also about the blank, 19, you have. Take part in a blank, 20, used to learn about your way of working. Information given on benefits, e.g. health consultations. Stage 4, individual interview. Meet a manager and the blank, 21, working in a particular store. And that's all the questions. And there's just stage 5, job offer sent out to successful applicants. And that's the rest of that. So this is the first part of section 2, questions 15 to 21. So we'll be going through this first. So let's look over the text. Here we are. GZJ Travel, recruitment info. We're looking for keen and effective people who are passionate about travel to work as travel sales consultants in our rapidly growing team. Our recruitment process has 5 stages. Here's how it works. The first stage is to use our online application form to apply for a current vacancy. Okay, before I go further in, this is clearly broken into sections. So with your flowchart, with your flowchart, actually I'll keep this one on this and then go to here. Yeah, this will be there. So with your flowchart, the paragraph we were just reading, that's about the application form. So we'll be looking for give proof of achievement so far both in education and in blank. This is the first thing we're looking for in this paragraph. And then after that, we'll be looking for note additional requirements for applicants interested in the role of blank. When they say the role of, that means that's a job, a job title. So we're looking for a job title for 16. And for 15, we're looking for something, a field. So a field of study or business or work, like a field of work, basically. So something that you'd work in or have experience in. So that's what we'll be looking for 15. And 16 is the actual job title. So that's what we're looking for in this paragraph. So let's go back to the paragraph. Here we are. This is your chance to tell us about yourself and the qualities and experience you have that make you the ideal person for the job. For the travel sales consultant role, you'll need to provide us with evidence that you have extensive experience in a marketing environment as well as a solid academic background. Now, does that sound familiar? They're asking for, obviously, proof of achievements so far both in education, that would be academic background, and the other thing they mentioned was a marketing environment. So that would be your answer. So for 15, it would be marketing background. So see, that's 2 words, so that fits within the limit of 3 words. And so, like they say, and obviously you wouldn't put the answer as a marketing background because, as you can see in the question, and in a, and then you'd put marketing background. So don't put a marketing background because then that could be marked wrong because you've put in an unnecessary word. So that's fairly simple. They tell you here you need to provide us with evidence that you have extensive experience in a marketing environment as well as a solid academic background. They basically laid that out here, asking for in education, and the other thing they mentioned, obviously, marketing background. So that one's done. So moving on from there, if you're interested in a career as a corporate travel consultant, you'll need at least 1 year's experience as a travel consultant. So these are 2 titles. So it's asking here, additional requirements for applicants interested. So you need to choose the role that requires the additional requirements, which would be, obviously your answer would be corporate travel consultant. Here we go. Corporate travel consultant. Good. That's a bit long. Let's expand this. There we go. There we go. Excellent. Oh, no, that's in the way of things. Just drag this over a little. Excellent. There we go. So yeah, when you're typing out your answers, obviously, make sure that they're spelled as they are in the text. That way you won't miss any marks just because you rushed it and accidentally spelt it wrong. That would be a poor way to lose marks, honestly, and you'd kick yourself later for missing such an easy mark. So it's clearly corporate travel consultant and not travel consultant, because the job title they're asking for here is the one that needs additional requirements. And that would be the corporate travel consultant, because you need to be to have 1 year experience as a travel consultant to become a corporate travel consultant. So that's like being 1 year experience as a travel consultant is the additional requirement to become the corporate travel consultant. That's what they're referencing here, the additional requirement. That's what they're referencing there. So that's why 16 is corporate travel consultant. That's how they laid it out, both in the question and answer. So now we will go to stage 2. And here we'll be looking for more information given about company and the blank you could receive, and the information about annual event where prizes are given to those who have made blank. Okay, so now we go to the second paragraph. So if you reach stage 2, we'll arrange a telephone discussion where you can find out more about us, including the rewards on offer. Okay, so that was here. Yeah, they'll give you more information given about the company and rewards. And the rewards you could receive. Yes, so it would be rewards. That's what they're mentioning here. That's what they're saying in this first part here. So they're like where you can find out more about us, the company, more about the company, and then including the rewards on offer, which means obviously the company, that's there when they say us, and the rewards they offer, that's the rewards you could receive. So that sentence basically filled that in entirely. And now we want the information about annual event where prizes are given to those who have made blank. Okay, so now that will be the next part. So, for instance, once a year we like to acknowledge outstanding efforts and celebrate successes with our co-workers, and we have prize-giving ceremonies designed to do this. So we are looking for who have made, prizes are given to those who have made outstanding efforts. We like to acknowledge outstanding efforts. So the ones who get the prizes are the ones who have made outstanding efforts, and their efforts are being acknowledged. So the answer to that question would be outstanding efforts. Yeah. Try to get the full phrase, because since they're giving you up to 3 words, make sure you get so don't just put in efforts. It's clearly outstanding efforts, like you see here. Acknowledge outstanding efforts. That is the descriptive word, outstanding, for efforts. This is the adjective describing the noun efforts. An adjective is a descriptive word for a noun. So outstanding, it's like the efforts were outstanding. That's you're describing the noun that is efforts. So for example, using the noun successes, we could say great successes. That would be, obviously, the adjective with great would be the modifier for successes. So that's just a little factoid about adjectives and nouns. We'll be going more into that in our lessons, so I can help you obviously build up from the ground up your ability with written English, because of if you can create a complex sentence and write it down, then it'll be quite simple for you to learn how to speak it as well. And from there, obviously, you can since you know how to speak it, you can listen to it being said back to you, and that's basically 3 sections of IELTS. There's also obviously writing is you're reading, you're writing down the sentence, you're reading out the sentence to yourself, and then you'll be saying it, and then you'll be listening. So that's all wrapped up nice and tight in a neat little bow. So that, and I'll be helping you in various grammatical little idiosyncrasies of the English language. Just be teaching the grammatical rules, obviously adjectives, adverbs, nouns, verbs, all these things. Like a verb is obviously a doing word, which such as running. It's like you're doing something, or working. Working is a doing word, so it's a verb. Like he was working. Nouns obviously are things, people, places, such as Ted, the name of someone. That would be he's a person. A person is a noun. Like a house is a noun. A tree is a noun. Those are like things. They're things. And an adverb is a modifier for for a verb. So working hard. Adjective is a modifier for a noun, such as outstanding efforts. All these little tricks, just like little grammatical rules. I'll be teaching them to you, so you know how to flesh out your sentences with some little flair. Make them more complex. And as you learn how to write and read more complex sentences, you'll have less and less trouble with the IELTS, because obviously they will be increasing the complexity of the language as you go through the tests. So we'll be practicing that, build up your skills with English, from the ground up, from the bottom all the way to the top. I'll be building you all the way up so that you'll have no trouble. So it'll be great. Okay, so that is section 2, not section 2, that is the paragraph 2. We've just finished 17 and 18. And now we move on to stage 3, which is the group interview. Okay, so as you can see, the way I'm going through these tests and these sections is I'm finding the answers and showing you how I find them. So you can see the process of how you can solve these questions and the understanding you need so that you can answer them. For example, in the previous section, there was the question with the terrace. Let me bring it back up. I'll show you just to illustrate my point. Yes, where was it? Yes, question 13. That was, it has a private outdoor area where you could sit, and the answer to that was C. That was house C. So yeah, and they said a large terrace with uninterrupted views of the river and mountains. See, if you didn't know that a terrace is a private outdoor area of a property, then you would have no idea what that meant. This is the information, everything you need to answer the questions for IELTS is in the paper. For the reading section, it's all there for you. So if you have trouble with the reading section, don't worry. That just means that you need to learn some more vocabulary, some more increase your grammatical ability, the ability to construct sentences, the ability to understand sentences, the sentence structure, and what words mean as well. Because if you have trouble, then we'll find where you're having trouble, what kind of things you don't understand, and we'll work on those, and then we'll work on some more, and then we'll work on some more until you can go through the reading section and you understand every word you see and what it means, and especially how it relates to other words that mean the same thing but is just changed, such as terrace and large outdoor area, which mean the same thing, just one is one word and one is a small phrase. See? So if you start out with trouble, that's fine, that's normal. You're learning English from the start, from the beginning, or you've learned some English but you need to learn more. It's fine, don't worry about it. It's with during the course I'll be working with you to get you better, at English, to get you so that you can speak English well, instead of the wrong way to say that would be speak English good. That's wrong. It would be speak English well. That's how you would say it correctly in English, just so you know. But yes, everything you need for the reading test, like I've said, is here. So if you go, one of the best things to do is go through the reading test, read the text, And any words you don't understand, look them up or ask me or and anything like that. Just learn. You the only thing you need to do here is really expand your knowledge of the English language. Just learn more words, and eventually it just becomes a cakewalk. And a cakewalk is an idiom for an easy time, doing something so easily. So something becomes a cakewalk means it's easy for you. So yeah, any words you find here, any words I've said, as I've read it out, any words that you don't understand, look it up, ask me the meaning, just make sure that you understand. And please, if you don't understand, please just tell me, because of otherwise, it'll make it's worse for you, because if you tell me you understand but you don't, then I don't know that you need help. You don't be embarrassed. It's normal. You're learning, a new language. It's fine. Just ask me anything. It's what I'm here for. It's my job. So don't worry about it. Okay, let's go back to our proper section. So yes, we are in stage 3. So yes, like I said, let's go to the questions. What we need here. Stage 3, group interview. Sorry for that little intermission. I just wanted to expand on some topics and explain some extra techniques about how to pass the reading section. Just learning more words helps a lot. Okay, so now moving on. Okay, so the chance to tell us about how good you are at selling and also about the blank you have. Take part in a blank used to learn about your way of working. Okay, so these are the things we're looking for. So it's about something you have and taking part in something, which is used to learn about your way of working. Okay, so let's look for those. Go to the paragraph. Oh, by the way, a paragraph, as you can see, these are all broken into sections. These are paragraphs. When you you separate an essay, you could say, or an article, into blocks of text. They're called paragraphs. This is one paragraph. This is the second paragraph. This is the third paragraph. This is the fourth paragraph. This is the fifth paragraph. Those are paragraphs. The word paragraphs comes up a lot, especially in when you're learning about English, and especially when you're writing essays. Because of especially in university and college, the word paragraphs and the need to make sure you have paragraphs in your work comes up a lot. So, just a pro tip. So now, stage 3. In stage 3, we'll be able to give you more information about GZJ travel and find out more about you at an interview which you'll attend with a small group of other applicants. We'll be asking you about your ambitions and, of course, your sales ability, the most vital quality for our business. Okay, they mentioned sales ability here. Yes, one of these is supposed to be on the questions. So keep that on the questions. So this is chance to tell us about how good you are at selling. That's sales ability. So that was mentioned. And also about what else was mentioned? Ambitions. So that's the answer to 19. Your ambitions. Because they want to know about your sales ability, how good you are at selling. That's basically sales ability. And the other thing they want to know is about your ambitions. That was what they wanted to ask you, the ambitions you have. So yeah, that is 19. So now we're looking for something you take part in. Take part in. That means something you're involved in. You'll also be required to complete a psychometric test so we can find out more about your working style and characteristics. Okay, they mentioned working style. That is what we were looking for here. The way of working, that's your working style. So you need to take a psychometric test. That is what you need to take. So that is your answer for 20. They want you to take part in a psychometric test so that they can learn about your way of working, your working style, your style of working. So yeah, it's like if you have trouble spelling something, obviously look how it's spelled there. Psychometric. Oh, sorry, let's put that all in caps. Psychometric test. Boom. So that is 20. Oh, sorry. See, psychometric test. Okay, and the rest of it is, we'll also tell you about some of the perks. For example, as a Flight Centre employee, you can take advantage of the free consultations conducted by our in-house health and well-being team, HealthWise. So now that is stage 3 finished. Now we have stage 4, individual interview. Meet a manager and the blank working in a particular store. So we're looking for something, something that works with the manager, something that's involved, related to working with the manager in like a store. So something working in a store. So that means probably like people involved in some way. So let's see. Here we go. Next, in stage 4, you'll be introduced to the area leader, and you'll also visit one of our shops where you'll meet the team and find out more about the sort of work that's involved. Okay. So this is obviously the area leader. That is your manager. Meeting a manager. An area leader is your manager. And just here they're saying you'll visit one of our shops. It's like, so we're talking about particular store, so it's working a team. You'll meet the team, so, and the team. So that is your answer. We found it. That is team. Because here, as it says, you meet a manager and the, obviously, team working in a particular store. They mentioned here in this sentence, you can see why it's introduce the area leader. That would be a manager. And you'll also visit one of our shops. That's, a particular store, one of our shops. And you'll meet the team. That's what they say here. Meet a manager and the team. So you meet the team. Find out more about the sort of work that's involved. So yeah, that's what they're like meeting. They mentioned that. So they mentioned meeting a manager and meeting the team. That's implied. It's like with this, little Oxford comma here. Meeting a manager and meeting the team. So that is that section complete. But let's finish this paragraph because don't leave a job unfinished. Okay, so if you successfully pass stage 4, you've reached the final stage of the process and we'll be in touch with a job offer. And if you accept, we'll book you into our learning center to get your training underway as soon as possible. Career-wise, the department responsible for the training will then organize individual coaching to assist in setting goals for your career path. Okay? So that's that's just stage 5, job offer, just read out at the end there. Alright, so now we'll just go through this section so you can see what answers we've got. So what we got here is you want to give proof of achievement so far both in education and in a marketing background. That was here stage 1. Here we have, there was a chance to tell us about yourself and the qualities and experience you have that make you the ideal person for the job. For the travel sales consultant role, you need to provide us with evidence that you have extensive experience in a marketing environment as well as solid academic background. Yes, as said before, it's clearly marketing background there. Because they were asking about academic background, that's your education. That's what they're talking about. So you know that they're talking that this is the answer here. It's related. It's part of that sentence. And so they want extensive experience in a marketing background, right? And then we want the additional requirements for applicants interested in the role of, and that was obviously corporate travel consultant because it needed additional requirements, which was 1 year's experience as a travel consultant. That was the caveat. To be this job, you have to have a year's experience in this job, travel consultant. All right, that's 16. 16 was corporate travel consultant. Now, 17. More information given about the company and the blank you could receive. That was here. If you reach stage 2, we'll arrange a telephone discussion where you'll find out more about us. That's the company. See, they're mentioning there. They're sort of referencing themselves using a pronoun, us, including the rewards on offer. So that was clearly about the company and the rewards. So that is 17 is rewards. Okay. So now information about annual event where prizes are given to those who have made blank. Okay. So that was, for instance, once a year we like to acknowledge outstanding efforts. Yeah, that was what they're looking for there, because of here they want to. That's who they give prizes to. So that's why they're acknowledging outstanding efforts, and there's prize giving ceremonies designed to do just this. So to acknowledge the outstanding efforts, they give prizes. So that's why, prizes are given to those who have made outstanding efforts. You see how they've basically just changed the sentence structure to basically say this. This is basically like a paraphrasing of the text. These are all of these questions where you need to fill in the blanks. Like this flowchart. They're all paraphrased, which means basically it's saying the same thing, or in this case asking the same thing, but we're just using different words. They change the words around. They change the sentence structure. Move some of the words to the end of the sentence as opposed to being at the front of the sentence. But the overall meaning of the sentence is still the same. That's what it means to paraphrase. It just means you basically, it's the sentence or word, it's like, well, if it was just the word saying the same thing, that'd be a synonym. But a paraphrase is a phrase, obviously, so it has to be more than just a word. It's a phrase that basically says the same thing as another phrase, but uses different language to that sentence. So there's two sentences using different language, but have the same meaning. That's paraphrasing, just changing it. Okay, that's just a little tip, paraphrase. Let me just type that out for you, because the word paraphrase is a useful word. Okay, paraphrase. Like in school, they'll often ask you to paraphrase the text. Instead of just basically copying out the entire text, like in class, sorry, itchy throat. They want you to paraphrase it, to put it in your own words, because actually makes it easier for you to learn it, because you've had to think about it and thought, okay, how could I change the language used? Because when you think about it that way, it actually sticks in your mind more. That's actually a good study technique. Taking something like a sentence. Sorry about that. Taking a sentence or in a paragraph and basically changing the language around while keeping the same meaning will enable you to remember it better, because you've had to really put the thought into changing the language. Nice little study tip. I hope it helps you. It's a very good study aid I've found myself, because you're actually forced to understand the words to change them. That's how it works. Okay, so moving on. This is stage 3. A chance to tell us about how good you are at selling, and also about the blank you have. That we found obviously was the ambitions, as they mentioned in stage 3. Here, yeah. We'll be asking you about your ambitions, of course, your sales ability. What they mentioned obviously is how good you are at selling, that was sales ability, and also about the ambitions. That's what they were asking for. One of the things to try and pick out the answer you're missing is obviously to use the rest of the sentence as a sort of beacon to find out you're in the right place. So they said, how good you are at selling. Sales ability. That's the same thing, just paraphrased. Eh? So to look at that sentence, that one we just read. We'll be asking about your ambitions, of course, your sales ability. To look at that one and pick out the word that fits that blank space. And he's like, of course, ambitions. And that is 19. Okay, so now 20. Take part in a... That was obviously, you'll be required to complete a psychometric test, because they were asking about your, here, way of working, which is obviously working style. So, you need to take part in a psychometric test, and that was our answer. And then obviously 21, as we just went over recently, that was team, because you meet the manager, the area leader, and you'll be visiting one of their shops, particular store, where you'll meet the team, just like you meet the manager. As it says here, meet a manager and meet the team. But that's what implied here. Okay, so that is the first part of section 2. Now we move on to the second part of section 2, and that is, sorry, just highlighting accidentally, that is questions 22 to 27. Okay, now before we go through this reading passage, obviously, we should have a look over questions 22 to 27. So let's have a read through here. Okay, questions 22 to 27. Complete the sentences below. Choose no more than 2 words from the text for each answer. Okay, in this case, instead of like before, they said choose no more than 3 words. Now it's no more than 2 words. So these bold sections, this capitalized blue bold section, that is most important. You can't choose more than 2 words. Anything above 2 words, you've got the wrong answer entirely. All right? So now write your answers in boxes 22 to 27 on your answer sheet. So here, 22. There are certain places in the building that staff should avoid unless they have blank. 23. To ensure people can get out easily, it is important that there are no blank to exits. 24. Items which could cause injury must be blank before they are disposed of. 25. Not all departments have the same system for dealing with blank, so you'll need to check before throwing things away. 26. Blank are available to make tasks which require moving objects easier. 27. You should have blank while you are working. Okay? So now we go back up to the text and we're going to read through that. Okay, here we go. So what we are looking at here is Hilton Laboratory. Health and safety in the workplace. Personal safety. You must be familiar with the emergency procedures in your building so that you know what to do in the event of fire, spillages, or other accidents. Do not enter restricted areas without authorization, and at all times observe the warnings given. Okay, now, hang on. I'm going to just set this up so we can see the questions at the same time. Give me a second. Okay, so the questions here. Certain places in the building. Okay, so they just mentioned restricted areas. So you cannot enter restricted areas unless they have authorization. So that is our answer there. They're saying that, like the question says, there are certain places in the building that staff should avoid unless they have authorization. Places that you should avoid, restricted areas. That's restricted. Okay? So that would mean, let me just find this here. So that would be authorization. That is our answer. And now the next question we'll be looking for is, to ensure people can get out easily, it is important that there are no blank to exits. Okay, so we're looking for something probably it's probably around the, like fire exits and such, because that's a big safety concern about blocked fire exits. So let's have a look around. Okay. Do not wedge open fire doors or tamper with door closures, and do not block doorways, corridors, or stairs, as obstructions may affect access in the event of a fire. Okay, yeah, they're talking about fire exits, so obstructions. Yeah, so to ensure people can get out easily, it is important that there are no obstructions to exits. They're just saying no obstructions. So this word here that's been sort of cut off. So let's see, obstructions. Obstructions. You see where they've got that little dash there? That's just saying that the word continues on the line below. So that's still just one word, obstructions. You see, as I've spelled it here, obstructions. So if you see a little dash at the end, and then that means obviously that the word continues on the line below. So don't get confused by that. The same thing happens here with contamination. That's one word, contamination. Okay. So now that is 23. 23 is obstructions, because you don't want doorways to be blocked in the case of fire. That's what they're talking about. So obstructions is when something is blocked. It's been obstructed. Okay? 24. Items which could cause injury must be blank before they are disposed of. Okay, so we're probably looking for, here, how to dispose of rubbish safely. Okay, now, avoid leaving drawers and doors open unnecessarily, and do not trail cables or flexes across the floor. Okay, so that's that section finished. And here, how to dispose of rubbish safely. This is where we're looking for question 24, which is items which could cause injury must be blank before they are disposed of. Okay. We aim to protect the environment by saving and recycling glass, waste paper, and an increasing range of other materials. It is important to check materials carefully for contamination before placing them in recycling containers. Never put sharp objects such as razor blades or broken glass into waste bins without having wrapped the items carefully to protect those emptying the bins. Okay, so this is talking about the, obviously, items that could injure you putting them into bins. So you should, obviously, they must be wrapped. It's saying here, wrapped. Now, you can also actually add, in this case, remember I mentioned about brackets? You can, just put something in brackets just to, it's not necessary, but it could add to the answer. This you could put wrapped and then carefully. So you can say, so for this answer would be wrapped, and then you could write carefully, as in carefully wrapped. You can actually put carefully first, just in brackets, but either way, the most important part of that is wrapped. They have to be wrapped so that they don't cause injury. Anything that's sharp, such as razor blades, broken glass, like knives, needles, anything like that, has to be wrapped, brackets, carefully, to protect those who are emptying the bins, as it says here. So that's 24. They must be wrapped before they are disposed of. So they say, disposed, that means throwing away. So anything going into a bin would be thrown away. So that'll be disposed of. So now we are going on to 25. Not all departments have the same system for dealing with blank, so you need to check before throwing things away. Okay? Here we are. Other waste procedures may vary. Contact your building manager or divisional safety officer for advice with regard to your particular department. Okay? Let's see. Was that mentioned here? Not all departments. Aha! For waste procedure may vary. Contact. Okay. How to handle. Yeah, this is about. Okay, so this here, not at the same system, we're dealing with. Okay, this would obviously be waste or rubbish, because of the next question is clearly about moving objects, which will be how to handle heavy objects. So other waste procedures, yeah, but also they'll take rubbish, because rubbish is also used, so you can call it waste or rubbish. So yeah, not all departments have the same system for dealing with waste / rubbish. You can use either waste or rubbish. Those are the two words mentioned, so you use either of those. So yeah, may vary. Contact your building manager or divisional safety officer for advice with regard to your particular department. That's what it's mentioning here. So yeah, they don't have the same system. So that means this question, let's say, is waste / rubbish. So you can use either of those words, waste or rubbish. Either is correct. So yeah. Okay, so that is 25. 26. Blank are available to make tasks which require moving objects easier. So now that will be in this section, how to handle heavy objects. Okay? Make sure that shelves are not overloaded and that glass and heavy objects are stored at working height where they will be easier to reach. Use steps or ladders to reach items at height. Never climb on benches, tables, or chairs. Never move anything that is beyond your capability. Wherever possible, you should use the trolleys provided in the workplace to do the job for you. Okay, this is saying trolleys to move. Okay, trolleys, that would be to move heavy objects. So the answer are available to make tasks which require moving objects easier. Okay, trolleys. That means 26 is trolleys. Because it's asking you here, like not to, like it's about moving objects. The other objects they mentioned, which are steps and ladders, that's to reach items at height. And it's like, that's clearly not it. It's about moving heavy objects. And what else would you use but a trolley? Something that you put an object on and you can push around, much easier than carrying it in your hands. So that would be a trolley. So the answer for 26 is trolleys are available to make tasks which require moving objects easier. Right? So that's 26, trolleys. Right? 27, you should have blank while you are working. Okay? Here we are. If repetitive manual operations are routine in your work, your department will ensure you receive appropriate instruction on safe working practices and posture. Posture is obviously how you hold yourself. Like, if you're slouched over, that's, you've got a slouched posture, and that's bad for your back and your neck. Like, standing straight, that's good posture. It's like military posture, keeping your shoulders straight and your chest up and your neck straight. That's good posture. That's what they're talking about, posture. It's bad if you're carrying something to be slumped over, because that would be pulling on your back. That's how you wreck your back muscles, really bad. Okay, so we are looking for something you should have while you're working, probably something that makes it safer. Right. Staying alert. If you become mentally or physically tired during the working day and find that you're feeling drowsy or not concentrating properly, you could be at risk of causing an accident or making a mistake that could harm you or your colleagues. Okay, so it's here obviously. To prevent this, make sure that you take regular breaks when necessary. Okay, so yeah, that's like, this is a safety concern they're talking about here. You should have, and obviously regular breaks when necessary. Okay, so the answer for that would be regular breaks. Regular, sorry, write that all up, regular breaks. Because they're just saying that, while you're working, obviously we're looking for safety concerns. If you're working too long, you get tired, you'll have an accident. And to prevent that, the solution is obviously to take regular breaks while you are working. Yeah, so that's 27. Okay, so let's go through all of these. Okay, so 22. There are certain places in the building that staff should avoid unless they have authorization. They were talking about restricted areas. Obviously, to go in a restricted area, you have to have authorization. You have to be allowed to be there, and that you have to be authorized. So that is our answer there. 23. To ensure people can get out easily, it is important that there are no obstructions to exits. This is talking about obviously things like fire exits or doorways, stairways. Because if there's obstructions, if there's any blockages in the way, and a fire happens, then people aren't going to be able to get out, and it will be a tragedy. So obviously there can be no blockages to exits. There can be no obstructions, as they said in the text. Okay, 24. Items which could cause injury must be wrapped, brackets carefully, before they are disposed of. Obviously, we're talking about safety procedures, and they're talking about things like razor blades, broken glass, needles, things like that. Needles weren't mentioned, but it's obvious. These kind of procedures, they have to be wrapped before thrown away, because that's typically how you deal with because anyone going through the garbage, the garbage men, if they pick that up, they're going to cut their hands open and get an infection, and it'd be horrible. So to deal with that, those items must be wrapped and they say carefully, obviously, because these are sharp objects, very dangerous. So wrapped before they're disposed of. You could just put wrapped, but also wrapped carefully is fine too. That's also a good answer. Okay, 25. Not all departments have the same system for dealing with, and this was waste rubbish. So you need to check before throwing things away. As they mentioned, yeah, not every department has the same, procedures. So obviously they're saying to check, how each section deals with waste/rubbish. Those are the two words they've used in the text to describe waste/rubbish. They didn't use garbage, so don't use the word garbage in this case. Only use the words you're given in the reading test. So you'd pick them out of the text, and it's because they're giving you the words you're supposed to be using. All right. And so 26. Trolleys are available to make tasks which require moving objects easier. Because that's what a trolley is for. You know, you put something on it, it's got wheels, you can push it around much easier than it is if you're carrying it by yourself. So that is a piece of machinery, obviously, you'll use to make moving things easier. So that would be a trolley, as they said. Trolleys are available. 27. You should have regular breaks while you are working. As they were saying, you know, if you get tired while you're working, you might make a mistake which could harm you or your colleagues. So obviously you need to take regular breaks while you're working. You could say just regular breaks, or even you can put this in brackets, the regular part, because the most important part is breaks, because that's the noun. You need to have the thing, because the regular is just the modifier for the noun, saying the breaks are regular, you having them at a regular time. But breaks is the most important part of that, just like wrapped is the most important part of that. Carefully is just an addition, the same thing with regular. Okay, so that is section 2. And now we're on to the last section of the reading test, section 3. Okay, so in section 3 we have questions 28 to 40, but the first part of section 3 is questions 28 to 34. I'm going to go through that first. Okay, so the text on pages 28 and 29 has 7 sections, A to G. Choose the correct heading for each section from the list of headings below. Write the correct number I to X, that's Roman numerals, that means 1 to 10 in Roman numerals, in boxes 28 to 34 on your answer sheet. Okay, so this is I, these are all going down. This is in Roman numerals. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All of those in Roman numerals. Okay, we're going to be using these to answer these. So these, varying Roman numerals, will be the answer for the questions. Okay, and we're going to be matching them to whether it's A or G. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so yes, so for 28, we're looking for section A. 29, we're looking for section B. 30, section C. 31, section D. 32, section E, 33, section F, and 34, section G. Okay, so let's find which matches to what. Okay, so first off, section A. Yeah, that's section A. Okay, let's move down to keep the headings in here so we can see them all. Excellent. Okay, so writing the numbers. Start the questions. 28. 9, 31, 32, 33, 34. Alright. Okay, so now we're looking for section A. The zebra's long walk across Africa. James Gifford investigates some interesting new research into migration patterns of zebras living in Botswana in southern Africa. Okay, now before we read through these sections, we're going to read these list of headings. These are what we're going to be trying to match to each section. So, I, a decrease in the zebra population. II, an obstruction on the traditional route. III, an unknown species. IV, some confusing information. V, staying permanently in the Makgadikgadi Kagadi. Very interesting word there. VI, nearly a record in the zebra world. VII, three different ways of living. VIII, the original aim of the work. And IX, how was the information passed on? And X, why is it important to study zebras? Okay, so we're going to go into that. So now let's look into section A and try to match one of these headings with section A. Okay, A. For any animal to travel over 270 kilometers in Botswana, partly across the sand and low brush terrain of the Kalahari Desert, is a remarkable achievement. But to do so in 11 days and without any obvious motivation, as this zebra population does, is quite extraordinary. On average, their journey involves an exhausting round trip of 588 kilometers between the Makgadikgadi salt pan area and the Okavango River, making it second only to the great trek undertaken by the zebra herds in the Serengeti National Park. However, what is even more incredible still, in my view, is that until recently it was completely unheard of. Okay, so now let's try and match something here. Okay, so what have we got? So a decrease in the zebra population, no. An obstruction on the traditional routes, no. An unknown species, no. 4, the IV. Some confusing information, no. Staying permanently in the Makgadikgadi, no. Okay. An average journey involves an exhausting round trip of 588 making it second only to the great trek undertaken by the zebra herds in the Serengeti National Park. Okay. Nearly a record in the zebra world. Yeah, I think it might. That one is it, because it's saying nearly a record, and it's second only to the great trek undertaken by the zebra herds in the Serengeti National Park. So the answer to that question is VI. That's the sixth one, so VI. That's VI, yes. Because it's nearly a record. If it was a record, then it wouldn't be correct, because it's the second most exhausting round trip. The first is obviously the trek undertaken by the herds in the Serengeti, but this is like nearly a record because it's second only to that record in the Serengeti. So it's nearly a record, which makes it VI. Nearly a record in the zebra world because it's second only. That's what it means, nearly a record, second only. So that's what they're telling you there. Because of 3 different ways of living, no, that wasn't mentioned. The original aim of the work, no. How was the information passed on? No. Why it is important to study zebras? No, it was definitely VI. None of those matched. Okay, so we're looking for section B now. Okay. Hattie Bartlam, a researcher, discovered this migration while she was tracking zebra groups, officially known as harems, by the Okavango River for her PhD. Each harem consists of a stallion and his 7 or 8 mares with juvenile foals. There is no loyalty between zebras beyond this social group, though harems often gather together into so-called herds. For her study, Hattie had planned to compare the small-scale movement patterns of 11 different zebra herds in the area. Okay. So it's mentioning for her study. Okay, we just mentioned the original aim of the work. Okay. Actually, yeah, that's easy. That's actually a very easy one because it's mentioning all about the study more than anything. So that would be, the answer for that would be VIII. VIII. That's 8 in Roman numerals. This was 6 in Roman numerals. So yeah, it's the original aim of the work. That is what she was trying to do. Plan to compare the small-scale movement patterns of 11 different zebra herds in the area. and that's what the entire paragraph has been going on about, their movement, it's like their movement patterns, because she's been tracking zebra groups, officially known as harems, for her PhD. Excellent. So we now have B. So C. In December, where the annual rains had transformed the roads into rivers, Hattie was therefore more than a little surprised when she checked the data sent by the radio collars she fits to the zebras she is tracking to find that 6 of the harems were 270 kilometers away on the edge of the Makgadikgadi, a huge mineral-rich area where salt has collected over the years as water evaporates in the heat. Then, when the last of the moisture from the rains had disappeared in May the following year, 5 of those harems came wearily back to the Okavango. This raised the question, why, despite a plentiful supply of food and water, were the zebras being drawn eastwards to the salt pans? Even more difficult to understand was what made 6 of the groups travel so far while the other 5 remained by the Okavango. Okay, so this would be, we're looking for a decrease in the zebra population, no. Obstruction in the traditional route, no. Unknown species, no. Confusing information, possibly. Even more difficult to understand. Yes, it's confusing because it's difficult to understand. This raised the question. Okay, yeah, because it's confusing. It's because of this raised the question, why, despite a plentiful supply of food and water, were the zebras being drawn eastwards to the salt pans? Even more difficult to understand was what made 6 of the groups travel so far. Yeah, it's saying what's difficult to understand, raising questions, that's confusing information. But let's just be sure. It's staying permanently in the Makgadikgadi? No. It's not 6, we know that much. 3 different ways of living? Nope. That's already taken. How was the information passed on? No. And why is it important to study zebras? Okay, no. So that means that yes, the answer to section C is IV. That's 4. Because it's confusing information. Because they have to raise the question of why they're leaving an area despite plentiful food and water, and why 6 groups traveled so far while 5 remained. That's confusing. That's because apparently it's difficult to understand for them. Right, so now, section D. This discovery created quite a buzz in the research community. I decided to visit Hattie, and she explained that a century ago, the large number of Botswana's zebra and wildebeest herds and the resulting grass made migration essential. One of the migration tracks went from the Okavango to Makgadikgadi. But in the late 1960s, giant fences were put up to stop foot and mouth and other diseases spreading between wildlife and domestic cattle. One of these went across the migration track. Though the animals could get round the obstacle, each leg of their journey would now be 200 kilometers longer, an impossible distance given the lack of permanent water on the extended route. Even today, with the fence gone, it was taken down in 2004, there is dangerously little drinking water to support the zebras on their return journey to the Okavango. Okay, this is talking about the fence. I think that was an obstruction on the traditional route. That is a very easy one. The entire paragraph was about a giant fence. So that is an obstruction on the traditional route. So some of these, these matching, as obviously section 3 is the most complex language used in the reading test. This is going to be the hardest part of the reading test as a whole. But as you just saw from question 31, section D, sometimes it can be fairly simple. Not always, and but sometimes it's just a simple match, just using obviously complex language such as obstruction. But this entire paragraph D was entirely about a fence, and what is a fence but an obstruction? It's a blockage. So yeah, and it went over their migration route, which is an obstruction on a traditional route. So that was a fairly simple one. Okay, so now E. Very small paragraph, this one. As a zebra can live up to 20 years, The migration must have skipped at least one generation during the 40 or so years that the fences were up. This prompts another question. It has always been assumed that young of social herbivores like zebras learn migratory behavior from their parents. So how did the latest generation learn when and where to go? Not from their parents, who were prevented from migrating. Did they follow another species such as elephants? We may never know. Okay, so what are we looking for here? Oh, actually, I think I can see it right there. How was the information passed on? That's like, we may never know. How was the information passed on through the generation? Okay, that was fairly simple. That just jumped out at me there. Yeah, because we've already it's not a decrease in the zebra population. 2 is taken. It's not an unknown species. Confusing information is taken. It's not about staying permanently. That one's taken. Oh no, that's not taken, but it's not about staying permanently. Nearly a record is taken. 3 different ways of living. It's definitely not. Original aim of the work is taken. So, yeah, how was the information passed on? That's the question that paragraph just asked. Because of during that time the fence was up, there's a generation did not migrate, but the generation afterwards did. So where did they learn that information? And that is what they're asking. How was that information passed on? So the answer to that is IV. Oh, sorry, IX. Yeah, as you obviously, like in previous tests, as you strike off the answers that have already been used, it becomes easier to pick out which ones left to choose from. But sometimes, like with this one, like with this section E, and like with section D, it kind of just jumps out at you because it's fairly obvious. But it's not always going to be like that. But hopefully, an easy question just means an easy mark, and that's always great. Okay, so 33, that's section F. Let's go to that. Hattie's data points to the conclusion that there are several zebra populations adopting different behavior. The first, like the vast majority of the Okavango zebras, take it easy, spending the entire year by the river. The second group, 15,000 to 20,000 strong, work a bit harder. They divide their time between the Makgadi salt pans and the Boteti River, which is reasonably nearby. They sometimes struggle to find water in the Boteti area during the dry season, often moving 30 kilometers in search of fresh grazing. Their reward? The juicy grass around the Makgadi after the rains. Sorry, that word trips me up. It's very strange use of syllables there. Don't worry, that word isn't something you need to know in general. That is an African word, so if you have trouble pronouncing it, don't worry, most people will, unless you're from that region, so don't worry about it. The final group of zebras, whose numbers are more modest, though as yet unknown, must surely be considered as among the animal kingdom's most remarkable athletes. By moving between the Okavango and the salt pans, they enjoy the best of both worlds. But the price they pay is an extraordinary journey across Botswana. Okay, now this paragraph is kind of giving it away, because as you look over this, you can see it says 3 different ways of living. And they mention here, first, they talk about different zebra populations. And you got first, and then the second group, and then the final group of zebras. That's 3 groups. So, and they're talking about the different ways they live. 3 different ways of living. That one is clearly VII. So that one was relatively simple too. Kind of gave away the game there. There we go, VII. And now the last question, which is section G. Okay, so what we have left in the list of headings is, let's see, obviously, a decrease in the zebra population, and an unknown species, staying permanently in the Makgadi, and why it is important to study zebras. Okay, so it is X, V, 3, the III, and I. So there's only 4 left. Alright, so we've got to make our choice. Okay, so section G. Endangered species naturally tend to grab the headlines, so it's refreshing for a relatively abundant animal like the zebra to be the center of attention for once. Zebras are a vital part of the food chain. Understanding their migration, in turn, helps us to interpret the movements of their predators. And Hattie's research has shed light on the impact of fences on migratory animals. So what triggered her interest in zebras? She explains that it is easier to get funding to study exciting animals like lions. Crucial as that undoubtedly is, she believes that herbivores like zebras are key to understanding any ecosystem. The scientific community is fortunate that people like Hattie are willing to take the hard option. Okay, that, out of the things left, I think that's definitely talking about why it's important to study zebras. That was basically why she's studying zebras, why it's important, not to just focus on just lions, even though they're important. Understanding the habits and the lives of herbivores, such as the zebra, is important so you can to understand the whole ecosystem in which they live. So that is clearly X. And so that is the first part of section 3. Okay, so let's just go through. So section A, it was VI, which was nearly a record in the zebra world. Yeah, they're talking about how the route in section A is second. Let me say go to it. I'll go up to it. Sorry. Yeah, here it is. Is second only to the great trek undertaken by the zebra herds in the Serengeti National Park. So it's second only, that makes it nearly a record. So that's that. That's that question. And B was VII, the original aim of the work, yes. And this section, she was talking about what the aim of her study was, which was had planned to compare the small-scale movement patterns of 11 different zebra herds in the area. And that is what she's doing here, what they're talking about here. So that's clearly that. And section C, that was IV, some confusing information. Yes, this was confusing because they're raising questions. It's like, this raised the question, why, despite a plentiful supply of food and water, were the zebras being drawn eastwards to the salt pans? Even more difficult to understand, which also means confusing, it's confusing if you can't understand it, was what made 6 of the groups travel so far, while the other 5 remained by the Okavango. And that's why it's confusing information. That's why C is IV. And then section D was 2, an obstruction on the traditional route. And that was fairly simple. Yes, they're talking about the fences that they put up over the migration trails. Yeah, here. But in the late 1960s, giant fences were put up to stop foot and mouth and other diseases. One of these went across the migration track, and that is an obstruction on a traditional route. So that's simple enough. And now, section E, that was IX. So how was the information passed on? Yes. And what they're talking about, as a zebra can live up to 20 years, the migration must have skipped at least one generation during the 40 or so years that the fences were up. And this prompts another question. It has always been assumed that the young of social herbivores, like zebras, learn migratory behavior from their parents. So how did the latest generation learn when and where to go? Not from their parents, who were prevented from migrating. Did they follow another species, such as elephants? We may never know. And that's why, how was the information passed on? While their parents didn't migrate, yet the latest generation knows how to migrate. How was that passed on? We may never know, apparently. And so, of course, the end, section G, that was why it's important to study zebras. She just went over why, it's important to study herbivores like zebras because they're the key to understanding any ecosystem. So that's why it's important to study zebras. So that's first part of section 3, done. And so we will then move on to the last part. Oh no, sorry. The second part of section 3, questions 35 to 37. Complete the summary below. Choose one word only one word for this, from the text for each answer. Write your answers in boxes 35 to 37 on your answer sheet. Social behavior in zebras. Zebras tend to live together in small units, which experts call blank 35. Here, a male zebra has charge of a number of adult blank 36, and their young. These units sometimes assemble in bigger groupings or blank, but it is still clear that the zebra's loyalty only extends to the small unit they live in. Okay, so this part, this is from the text, clearly section B, I believe. So what we're looking for, yes, yeah. So that was I believe, yes, tracking zebra groups, officially known as harems. So 35, oh sorry, hang on, so we'll put one part on the section, yeah, put it there, and then drag down to the questions. Down. There we go. So, small units, which experts call harems. Yes, as they said here in this section. So, the answer for 35, sorry. 35 is harems. And then 36, 37. Okay. So, now we're looking for, here a male zebra has charge of a number of adult, I believe it was mares, yes, mares with juvenile foals, and that the juvenile foals would be the young, and the mares would be the females that he's living with, so that would be mares. These units sometimes assemble in bigger groupings or, see, there is no loyalty between zebras beyond this social group, although harems often gather together into so-called herds. Herds. So that's 37 is herds. So for a section like this, it was clearly just referring to one of the passages we just went through. In this case, it was section B. So it was simple enough just to go back to it and find the words you needed, which was, zebras tend to live together in small units, which experts call harems. Here, a male zebra has charge of a number of adult mares and their young, juvenile foals, as they mentioned in the section. These units sometimes assemble in bigger groupings or herds, but it's still clear that the zebra's loyalty only extends to the small unit they live in. That was this entire section here. So, it's like here. While she was tracking zebra groups, officially known as harems, by the Okavango River for her PhD. Each harem consists of a stallion and his 7 or 8 mares with juvenile foals. There is no loyalty between zebras beyond this social group, although harems often gather together into so-called herds. For her study, Hattie had planned to compare the small-scale movement patterns of 11 different zebra herds in the area. So that was clearly that. So that was the section 2, part 2 of section 3 is done. It was fairly simple. Just we needed to find which section from before, it was which part of the reading we needed to go over again, and that was section B in this case. So if they do this on another test, it just means you need to go back to the previous reading and find the section that is asking for the words that are missing. These are just one word, which was here, experts call harems, a number of adult mares, in bigger groupings or herds. So that's these answers here, harems, mares, herds. Okay, so now we go on to 38 to 40, the last questions of the section and the test. Okay, so here we go. Questions 38 to 40. Choose the correct letter A, B, C, or D. Write the correct letter in boxes 38 to 40 on your answer sheet. So this is clearly a multiple choice. So, how did Hattie feel when she heard some of the zebras had travelled so far? Okay, A, annoyed because she would have to follow them to the Makgadikagadi. Pretty sure she never mentioned she was annoyed, so we can cross that off. B, disappointed that not all of them made it back to the Okavango. I don't believe she ever mentioned she was disappointed. C, frustrated as the rains had made the roads unusable. don't remember that ever being mentioned. Or D, unsure as to the real motivation for going. Now I think it's D, because it was mentioned at some point. I think it was actually in which section was it? Yes, here, in section C, the confusing information section. Even more difficult to understand was what made 6 of the groups travel so far while the other 5 remained by the Okavango. Yeah, so Hattie was therefore more than a little surprised when she checked the data sent by the radio collars she fits to the zebras she is tracking to find that 6 of the harems were 270 kilometers away on the edge of the Makgadikagadi, a huge mineral-rich area where salt is collected over the years as water evaporates in the heat. Then, when the last of the moisture from the rains has disappeared in May the following year, 5 of those harems came wearily back to the Okavango. This raised the question, why, despite a plentiful supply of food and water, were the zebras being drawn eastwards to the salt pans? So yeah, she was unsure why they were going. So yeah, that's D. Remember that information. It helps if you can remember what you've read through, and so you can match it up with this. So this is D, because it's unsure as to their real motivation for going. Now, 39. When describing the different Botswana zebra populations, the writer indicates A, his admiration for the ones who migrate the furthest distance, B, his sympathy for the ones who stay by the Okavango River. Admiration is possible. B, sympathy. I don't believe he ever mentioned sympathy. C, his disbelief that those by the Boteti have difficulty finding food. No, he never mentioned disbelief. Or D, his anxiety that their migration patterns may not be able to continue. No, there's nothing about anxiety because of their migration is clearly continuing afterwards, after they remove the fence. So it's not D. There was no disbelief. I think it's A, the admiration for those who migrate the furthest distance, because I think that was in section A. Let's go up. Yes. For any animal to travel over 270 kilometers in Botswana, partly across the sand and low bush terrain of the Kalahari Desert, is a remarkable achievement. Admiration, because it's a remarkable achievement. But to do so in 11 days without any obvious motivation, as this zebra population does, is quite extraordinary. Yeah. However, what is even more incredible still in my view is that until recently it was completely unheard of. So yeah, it's all admiration. It's just the author is in awe. So that was, the writer indicates, it was A, his admiration. That's from the first section, section A. Okay, so what does the writer suggest in the final paragraph? Okay. A, too much time has been wasted on research into the predators like lions. No. I remember section G mentioned that it was important. Research into lions was important, but research into zebras was also important, so it's not A. B, it is sometimes necessary to go against the trend in research matters, possibly, because it was advocating research into a field that's not as, let's say, as sexy as research into lions, because that's more popular because, a very popular predator. C, research will result in a ban on fences in areas where zebras live. No, it's definitely not that. Or D, research into animals which are not endangered will increase. No, it's definitely not D either. So I think it's B, is sometimes necessary to go against the trend in research matters. Let's have a look at the section. Endangered species naturally tend to grab the headlines, so it is refreshing for a relatively abundant animal like the zebra to be the center of attention for once. Okay, yeah, that's saying going against the trend. Let's just go down to the question just to make sure. It is sometimes necessary to go against the trend. Yeah, that's kind of supporting that. Zebras are a vital part of the food chain. Understanding their migration, in turn, helps us to interpret the movements of their predators, and Hattie's research has shed light on the impact of fences on migratory animals. So what triggered her interest in zebras? She explains that it is easier to get funding to study exciting animals like lions. Crucial as that undoubtedly is, so it's, it's definitely, the writer's not saying that, research into lions is wrong. She believes that herbivores like zebras are key to understanding any ecosystem. The scientific community is fortunate that people like Hattie are willing to take the hard option. Yes, the hard option. So go against the trend in research matters. You're going for the hard option, which is going against the trend. The easier option is endangered animals and predators like lions, because you'll get more funding, but research into zebras is very important to understanding the whole of the ecosystem. So even though it's not as popular, it's important. So the answer for this is definitely B. So like, as he says in his final paragraph, the answer is, B. So yes, and that is section 3, and that is the reading test completed. Okay, I hope you didn't have too much trouble. If you did have trouble, you should find where you had the most trouble. Was it with the language? Was it for following along the links between what they're asking for, the questions, and what's in the text, trying to match up the answers with the text? Is it your vocabulary? Is it you lack enough language to follow along? If it's it's always good to try and expand your vocabulary. So if you come across any words you don't understand, you should definitely look them up, and so you in the future you understand what they mean. That will make it much easier going forward with your reading tests. So that's great. So, and yes, we've gone through that. So yes is D. Unsure is the real motivation for going, as we went through. And A is admiration for the ones who migrate the furthest distance. As he said, he thought it's an incredible achievement going so far. And B, it's sometimes necessary to go against the trend in research matters. Yes, that is true. Yes, that is definitely what we're saying. It's it's important to take the hard option sometimes to research something that's maybe not popular, but very important nonetheless. So yes, D, A, B. That's 38, 39, and 40. And that is the reading test complete. Okay. So next, we'll be going into the writing test. So look forward to that. And as always, I am your host and teacher, Joseph Pratchett, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.